from Excel Champs, and this video is going to be very specific for people who want to learn VBA. And let me tell you, if you want to learn VBA, actually, if you want to write codes, you need to understand that objects, as VBA is an object oriented language. So you need to understand the object hierarchy of VBA and Excel. So in this video, we'll understand that how we can use objects, how we can use these object hierarchy to write VBA codes in Excel. So let's get started. So here I have a image. This is basically a image from a store, clothes store. So what happens is when you enter a clothes store, so there are different sections where you have menswear, and then women wear differently, and then you further have sections for different sizes, colors, and wears, bottom wear, top wear. So in this way, in Excel there is a model of uh, you know objects that we need to understand, and then we need to follow that object model to write codes. So let me show you something. So a single object has properties and methods that you can further use to perform activities in Excel. Okay, let me ask first, am I audible? If anyone can go to chat box and say hi to me. All right, let me continue. So in objects, you have further properties and methods that you can use to perform activities. So for example, if I want to change a font color, so in that case, I need to access the font color property of a cell. And if I want to delete a worksheet, in that case, I need to access the delete method, to delete a particular sheet. And now a single object in Excel has further objects that are related with each other. So now okay, thank you for confirming. Thank you, Roshan. Thank you, Ashish. Thank you, Mr. Singh, Amandeep. Thank you, Shiv Kumar. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so let me come back. So the first object that is the most important object, in terms of the object model, is Excel application itself. So the start of this model, actually, the first object that we have in this structure is Excel application. Because when you open Excel application, you as a software, when you open this, this application, you only then you can use any of the a function, any of the option that we have in Excel. So the first object is Excel application, right? So when you access this application and go further, you have three more objects. The first is add-in, and then Windows, and then Workbooks. Now the point is, at this level, when you are beginning with a VBA, we need to focus on those objects that we are going to use more and more. I mean, the more frequent, the objects that we're going to use. So the Workbooks is one of those most important objects from these three. So for now, you need to focus on these Workbooks. So we have Excel application, and then we have Workbooks. That is a normal, the Excel file. Now when we go further, we have four more objects, which is after Workbooks, under Workbooks, you can say. And first is charts, and then worksheets, names, and VB project. And from the these four objects, the worksheet is the most important, I would say, or it's something which is you're going to use frequently than any other object. And when I drill down in the worksheets, I have further objects called range, pivot table, page setup, name, hyperlink, comment, and chart. And now from these 7 objects, range is something which you are going to, to use more frequently than any other chart, right? So we have Excel application, and then we have workbooks, and then further worksheet, and then a range. So this is very, a simple way of, defining objects: application, workbooks, that is a file, and a worksheet, a normal sheet that we, use and insert in an Excel file, right? And after that, we have a range, a normal cell where we enter data. Okay, let me. Okay, so are we clear? Can you just share something with me in the comment box if I'm going right? Give me a yes in the comment section. All right, let me close this. And by the way, you can download this file in the description. I'll add a link after that. So you can download this, this file for your reference. It will help you to understand, the concept of these objects in Excel and VBA. Okay, so let me thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ashish. Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you. All right. So let me come back to the Excel, my Excel file. And let me close this. All right, so this is our normal Excel file, right? And now I'm going to open this Visual Basic Editor, and let me insert a module. And now let me rename a new macro. I'll also share this, these steps with you in the description box. You can check them out after that. So now, as I said, the first thing that you need to refer is the Excel application itself. And for this, you need to use the keyword application. When you use this keyword application, it tells VBA to refer to the Excel application itself. It's a complete, application that we have. It's not the workbook. It's actually the software, or you can say that, the app, Excel app itself. And now when I enter a dot, it gives me a list. We'll talk about this list, once we complete this object model. So I will use the workbooks. So what I'm doing, application and then workbooks. That means Excel app and then workbooks. That's the Excel file, right? And then again, I'll enter a dot. It gives me one more list, and I'll use the worksheets here. So Excel application, workbooks, further a worksheet, and then I'll use page. So this is the simple model of object in Excel: application, workbooks, worksheets, and range. That's it. Now we'll refer to a particular workbook, and then a particular sheet, and then a specific cell. So application dot workbooks, and then you need to type a starting parenthesis, and then a double quotation mark, and then the name of the workbook that you want to refer to. So here I have book 1 opened, so I'll use book 1, and again book 1, and again the double quotation marks and closing parenthesis. So now I'm referring to the book 1, and in book 1 I have sheet 1 here. So let me insert one more sheet, and now I'll enter a dot again, worksheets, again a starting parenthesis, and then a double quotation mark, and the name of the sheet that I want to refer to. So we are at the third step. So we have application, we have workbook, we have a sheet name as well. And now the final thing, use range, and I'll go with the cell A1. Again, the same thing, Excel application, workbook, worksheet, and arrange. Now let's suppose if I want to copy this, copy this cell A1, I'll use a dot again and I will type copy. So this is a method. We'll talk about properties and methods, once we cover this object model. And now if I try to run this code, so as you can see, it simply copies, the cell A1. So are we clear here? Anything you want to ask, you can add in the comment section. All right. So now what happens is when you are writing a code in Excel, the file is open, but in that case, you don't need to use the application keyword because there is one Excel file. There is only one Excel file which is open right now. But if I open, multiple files, but the application will be the same. For example, if I insert a new, file, these are two separate files, but the application is same. There is no, a separate application to open the second file. The application is same. So whenever you're writing a code, the app, the Excel app is always opened. So that means you don't need to use this keyword application in your code. So you can use it if you feels like you need to use it, but in normal way of writing codes, you don't need to use it. So you can skip that. It will work in the same way. So now if I run this code after deleting this application keyword, this code will still work. Now you can see it copies the cell A1. Now the next thing, right now the only one book is open. That's book one, right? So if I skip referring to the book one, because the only book which is a file which is open is book one, and if I want to skip to refer to a book, I can delete this this particular part of this code, and this code will still work. This small line of code will still work. It will still copy the cell A1. Now, now again, we need to drill down more. I have book one open, right? And worksheet one, the sheet one is open. And if I skip referring to the sheet one, this small line of code, these three words will still work. So let me go back to the Visual Basic Editor and try to, yes. Now, as you can see, it still works. So the point is, there are few times when you need to refer to an entire workbook, the object model, but normally you need to specify that which object you need to specify and refer to. So if I want to specify a cell which is in the in the same workbook, in that case I don't need to use the entire structure of the object models. So I can simply use the cell A1, range A1 to A10, whatever, right? So this is the one thing. Now what we'll do, will okay, let me change the object here. Whenever you refer to a object, for example, if I book one, each object comes with few properties and a few methods. So these properties and methods are way to perform an activity. So as I shared with you, if you want to delete a workbook or you want to delete a worksheet, in that case you need to use a specific method. And if you want to change a font color, in that case you need to specify, you need to use, or you need to access to a specific property. So when you refer to an object like this one, workbooks, and book one and press a dot, it gives you an access to all the methods and properties that you can use with that object. Now, the point is how we can identify which one is a property and which one is an object, method, sorry. So if you see here, I have a small green brick here. So this thing is a method. And where you have this gray hand with, the white box, that means it's a property. So for example, if I want to close this, book one, I press dot and then I use the close. And when I select close, it shows me this green, a brick with this close. That means it's a method. So closing a workbook is a method. So when I select this and try to run this code, so it asks me if I want to save this file or not. So if I say don't save, so it simply closes this workbook. Now, now we'll see how we can use the workbooks object, and then we'll see the worksheet and then rain. So we'll go, step by step, and we'll try to understand all three, these all three objects, one by one. Okay, let me see a few. Okay, so let me see a few comments. Okay, so Amandeep is asking, what is SubMacro? So basically, sub is, a sub procedure. This is how you start a macro, and the macro part is the name of that, macro, the name of the VBA code. And we need to use this, starting and closing parentheses while, naming the macro. And there's one thing that Ashish is saying, what is class? So class is basically a different thing, which is not, I'm not over in this, video. I'll try to cover it in next video, maybe after a few videos. All right, so let me insert a new module and let me name a macro again. All right, so let's say if I want to, as I already said, if I want to refer to a workbook, you need to use the workbooks and then the name of that file, that workbook, right? So now if I press a dot, it again gives me the list of properties and methods. Now there's also a different way, a different method to refer to a workbook. So for example, if I have multiple workbooks, so right now if I have if book 4, book 5, so I have 3 different workbooks, right? So if I go back and now, as I said, I have 3 workbooks, and I can refer to any of these workbook with a serial number. So for example, if I want to refer to the book 2, that is on the second number. So there is a serial number, which is, which uh, file you have opened first, which file I have opened first. So if I've opened book 3 first, that means the serial number is 1. And if I open book 4 after that, that means it has the second serial number, right? And if I open a new one, book 5, that means it goes with serial number 3. So now what I'm doing is workbooks 2, that means the book on the second number, and then I'll press a dot and I'll use the method activate to activate that book. So workbook 2 was, I guess, book 4. So if I run this code, it must activate the book 4. Yes. So here we have the book 4. So you can use the name, you can use the number, the serial number of the workbook. Now the third method to refer to a book, which is very specially for the workbook that you are in writing the code. So if I want to refer to a to workbook in which I'm writing a code, I mean the writing Okay, let me write this first. Okay, workbook. So this workbook is a keyword basically. So when I use this workbook, it actually refers to the current workbook in which I'm writing the code. And again, I can use the property or list. So let's suppose if I want to go with save, this workbook is the book 3. So I'm in the book 3 right now and in the module 1. So now if I run this code, it will ask me to save the book 3. Even though the book 4 is active, it will skip the book 4 and run this code for book 3. So it's asked me to, if I say yes, yeah. And in the same way, we use this workbook for the current workbook, but there's also one more way that says active workbook. So now the active workbook you can use to refer to the book that is active right now. So if even if I'm writing this code in the book 3, it will run this code. It will execute this code in the book 1. So for example, if I go with active workbook and then I go with worksheet sheet 1 and then range A1 and go with value equals to yes, must enter this value in the cell A1 of this work. All right, so this is how you can do this. We have book 4, sheet 1 in cell A1, and here we have the value yes, even though I'm writing this code in the book 3. So the four major ways: the name, the number, this workbook, and the active workbook. Okay, let me see few of the comments. Okay, so Shiva Kumar says, when I press dot with the name, the intelligence, the list not popping down. So basically, for when you specifying a worksheet and try to open the list, the list of properties and methods, it will not show you that that list that pop up that comes after that. And for that problem, you can do one thing. You can use the sheets, and then you can see this list, and then you can use a method or property from this this list with that object. So I'll cover that in further in this video. Okay, so let me why sometimes I see me as reference as the object. Okay, so this is more of using a variable. I'll try to cover this in next few videos. So right now we'll focus on the objects and properties and methods. All right, so okay, give me a few, give me a hi in the comment section. I can see if you can, if you are able to understand what I'm sharing with you. Give me a hi in the, give me a yes in the comment section. So let's, okay, Pankaj, thank you, thank you, Abhishek. All right, so now let's jump to the, the worksheet object. Okay, so the first thing that, you need to understand about worksheet there are two different ways to to use or to refer to a sheet. Now in Excel there are two things that we two words actually that we use to to refer to a sheet. So one is the worksheet and the second is sheets. So now these two words are almost similar, but there is a slight difference between these two. When you use the this keyword, this keyword as an object, worksheets, you can only refer to the worksheets where you have rows and cells and everything. But when you use sheets, you can also refer to a macro sheet or a chart sheet. So more of the time you will not be dealing with chart sheets and macro sheets. So you can use worksheet or sheets, anyone. They mean same, but the range of the reference is different. So I'll go with worksheets so I don't want to confuse you. Now the first method is same. The name of the sheet that we can use to refer, simply worksheets, a starting parenthesis, and then double quotation marks, the name of the sheet, and then again double quotation marks and closing parenthesis. And now if I use the activate method with it, I try to run this code. So it simply activates the sheet one. Now, as I'm using the sheet name, I can also use the sheet number. So let's suppose if I want to activate the sheet 3. So the sheet 3 is sheet 3 with the name sheet 3. So if I run this code, so it activates the sheet 3 because it's on the third position in the workbook. So these are the two worksheet using by number. Now the fourth thing that you need to understand is if I want to refer to the sheet which is activate right now. Any sheet, it can be any sheet. So I'll simply use the keyword active sheet dot range a1 dot value equals to yes. When you use this active sheet keyword and then you refer to a range or then you use value and yes whatever. So this is a dynamic line of code. So if I try to run this in the sheet 3, it enters the value in the cell A1. And if I go to sheet 1 again, sheet 2, and run this line, it again enters the value in the cell A1. So this small keyword active sheet makes this line a dynamic. So it always refer to the active sheet and then it will enter the value in the cell A1. Now the next thing that I really want to share with you is whenever you use whenever you refer to the worksheet or sheets, try to enter a dot. It will not show you the list of properties and methods that that comes with uh, a sheet or a worksheet. So in that case, what you will do, you can type sheets here and then enter a dot. It will give you a small idea of what are the properties and methods that comes with the object, and you can use these properties and methods from here. I try to cover this this small problem in the next video where we'll discuss about variables and the constant. So this is not a problem. This is not even a glitch, but there is a small thing of a kind of understanding that we need to make when we're using VBA. So you don't need to you don't need to take it as a fault of something or for worksheets. All right, so let's move to the range. Now, this is one of the I would say most important and most useful object that we have in Excel. So this is like we most of the time we deal with cells and ranges, right? All right. So are you with me? So say yes in the comment section. So let me see who's there. You're welcome, Abhishek. Thanks, Dan. Okay. All right. So, okay, let's move to the range. What happens is, the referring to a range is same as we, refer to a worksheet or a workbook. So I'll use the range. Again, a starting parenthesis, double quotation marks, and then I'll use the reference to the cell. And now with the range object, when you press a dot, it shows you all those, a list of properties and methods, and you can use any of these from here. Now, when I, select activate, that means to activate that particular cell or range. So if I go back and try to select a different one and try to run this code, so it simply activates, the that cell. But activate actually doesn't mean selecting. So there is a separate method for selecting. So there is a slightly different, between select and activate. Let me, elaborate this for you. So now here I have a range selected from A1 to B7, but the active cell is B7. So if I use activate method, so it activates the cell A1 from that range, particular range. But if I use the select this select method and try to run this code, it unselects that entire range and simply select the cell A1. So this is the slight difference between these, these methods. So let's use the value property. So as you can see here, I have this icon of hand here. That means it's a property. So when I select the value property and type equal sign, and now I need to specify the value that I want to enter the cell. And now if I run this code, so it simply enters that value in the cell. So as I'm, entering a text, I need to use double quotation marks. So I need to, enclose these two words. So if I try to enter a number, for example, if I try to enter, in that case, I don't need to enter. I don't need to use this double quotation marks. I simply run this code and it will enter that value in the cell. Let's try to copy. If I run this code, it simply copies the cell A1 from the sheet 2. So whenever you type a dot, it gives you a long list of all these things that you can use to perform different activities with all the objects. Okay, let me take a few questions from your side. You can share those those questions with me in the comment section. So I'll No, Shiva, there's no such difference. If I say, I mean, in term of code, yes, there is a difference, but in term of execution, there will be no difference if you use. So value is basically when you enter a value in the cell, and yes, I mean, without dot value means without value is like it's entering that value straight into the cell. So when you use dot value, it's like editing a cell and then copy pasting that value inside it. So it will not make any difference in in term of execution, but yes, there is a slight difference in the code. Both will work in the same way. Okay, so Abhishek is asking, what are the data types mostly used in VBA? So, Abhishek, I'll do one thing. I'll try to cover this thing in the next video, which is basically on variables and constants. So this after once you understand the the objects of VBA, the next thing is to understand is the variable. So I'll do it definitely next week. On the same time on Thursday, I'll do a live for that. So understanding variables and constants is important. Anyone? All right, so I'll end this session here, and I really want to thank you for joining me, and make sure to subscribe to the channel because I'm out with this variable and constant live on next Thursday uh, at same time, and make sure to share this video with your friends who wants to to learn VBA, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.